All right, May 12th, in the year of perfect vision. Just want to keep this going as we just put this continue on the forefront where it has taken a back burner due to the current outbreak. But let's just be mindful of what's going on with our national debt as it continues to grow. Now, this is a steel shot. Keep in mind that if you were to go to the usdeadclock.org, which I advise you to do, you will see these numbers are continually moving. So I just plan to share this on a weekly basis so we can all just kind of can hone in on just what's going on. Here, just gonna really just click real quick. We're just showing you here a little bit of a closer zoom. Now, the U.S. debt now is over 25 trillion. That has grown over 2+ trillion in just the last few months, few days. It has been a very, very short period of time. The debt, it took 200 years for our national debt to hit 1 trillion, okay? And we have jumped over 2 trillion in just the last like 3 months, 90 days, which is just so crazy. You can also see under that where the deficit where it's growing now, again, over 2.6 trillion, but actual over 3 trillion now is our official budget deficit. And so that's the ramifications because now as the economy has closed, these are the ramifications. You know, as what's one of the laws that says for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So yes, so there is a reaction due to the stimulus that's going out, the pennies that's being given to the citizens, the bulk that's been given to the corporations. There are consequences behind that, and you can see this right here. And so we'll probably see here largely by summer, this thing will be quickly embarking upon 26 trillion as it's growing down at an unprecedented high. As we scroll over here and we come up, you'll see now, try to blow it up a little bit, unemployment now. We're over 40 million nationwide in unemployment with now about 329 billion people. I think the official stat now, based on the government, is about 15% unemployment. I think that I saw another article where only about 60% of the people are actually now participating in the workforce. So these are the ramifications that's going on now behind this current outbreak. Now you'll see here the biggest number here is going to be the unfunded liabilities now stands at over 147 trillion. That's a culmination now of, you see, Social Security as well as Medicare, all right? And some other things that's also factored into that. I mentioned again on a prior post, I even went live to even mention this, where if you're a person that's a young person that's currently just starting the workforce and you're going to have taxes taken out of your payroll check for Social Security and Medicare, I think this is the biggest theft because you will never see any of that money. This Ponzi scheme, this experiment would largely be well over before you see any of that money. I'm now about 20 years out myself from that number. You know, what is it, 65? Back into it, you know how old I am. But anyway, I probably won't see it myself either, just because this thing would be long up well before I'll get a chance to see any of that money. But again, U.S. debt clock, just going to just take a look at this on a weekly basis and just continue to watch this number as it continues to grow, as these are the ramifications behind what's going on now in our economic markets. So again, you can see unemployment number, over 40 million. But it's a lot of information on this thing. I just advise each of you as time to just kind of keep this front and center, because these things, which are so important, tend to take a back seat to the current events, and they kind of get left behind. And all of a sudden, once the pandemic is over, we'll be like, oh man, what happened? And this thing right here then will be rearing its ugly head. So I guess the questions remains, at what point is the remedy worse than the actual disease? Now, this article really gave me reason for pause, gave me reason to be alarmed. Oregon Department of Health to remove children from home if parent infected with coronavirus. At the behest of the World Health Organization, WHO Executive Director Michael Ryan, Oregon is slated to remove children from homes and place them in substitute care if parents are deemed unable to support them. Ryan, who was criticizing for stating that governments need to go door to door looking for people infected with coronaviruses, and if found, now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them. So again, like what is really the what's really going on here? So now we're gonna at the I guess for the safety of the children, just start to remove them from their parents. What is really the ulterior motive? At what point do we just draw the line in the sand and say enough is enough? Is this been done for the safety of the children? Now let's go back to what I was just showing you. When you take aid from the government, that is a privilege. Okay, this is a privilege. Now you have 40 million people and growing that's unemployed. Okay, let's connect some dots here. 40 million people, and the number is growing, that are unemployed. And now are dependent on the government for assistance. So now this whole thing that's taking place here in Oregon could perhaps be nationwide. Okay, where now you're depending on the government for your assistance, your unemployment due to loss of job because you're deemed to be non-essential. Now all of a sudden they come in and give you a test, and this test states that you have coronavirus. Now they can remove your kids out of the home because I guess you're unable to support them. So I think this is all like a little bit of a game, a little bit of an experiment. But man, at what point do we just say, hey, let's just wake up, and let's just figure out exactly what is the real motive behind this thing. This article is very, very alarming, and I just pray that we would just all just dive a little bit deeper to see just what's going on again. But when you take that unemployment, that is a privilege, okay? And that's something that now that many people don't even want to be receiving. They would rather go out and actually work, but due to safety concerns, we cannot. So it creates a very interesting conundrum as to what do you do. You don't want to, put yourself or your fellow Americans at risk. So you stay home, you shelter in place, and then the ramifications are as the economy is kind of sliding, and now the problems with the debt has been exacerbated. The problem with unemployment has been exacerbated, and now this thing comes up here. So let's just not get caught off guard. There could be very, very sinister, very nefarious plan behind all of this stuff. All right, so what's being called for now is that these jokers want to come to our homes and do individual searches and test us at our homes to see if we have the COVID-19. This is just an article that came out, almost a month ago now. And I'll read real quick. This says the state recalls 12,000 COVID-19 test kits due to possible contamination. On April 17th, 2020, the Washington State Department of Health was alerted by UW-Medicine to discontinue the use of recently procured batch of COVID-19 specimen collection kits that UW-Medicine believe may have a quality control issue. As a result, last night, DOH recalled approximately 12,000 kits sent to the local health jurisdictions, tribal nations, and state agency partners across the state. Though the quality control issue has only been observed in a small number of tubes of viable transport media, we adhere to the highest quality standards for COVID-19 testing in Washington State, said Secretary of Health John Wiseman. We are working with our partners to have them discard the product, and we'll work to replace them as quickly as we can. Viral transport media is a fluid that preserves a specimen during transport, such as one collected via nasal swab from person being tested for COVID-19. Some of the vials of VTM were an unusual color, which prompted UW-Medicine to reach out to DOH to work together to investigate potential contamination. DOH officials believe there is no health risk to patients as the VTM does not come in contact with patients during COVID-19. Now, here's my point on this, okay? This is just only one state one little agency that we know had contaminated kits, but this could have occurred nationwide. Okay. Also, keep in mind that even if the test kits were not contaminated, that has been said that the tests and the procedure that they're using with these test kits have proven to be up to 80% unreliable. Okay. Also, you also understand that this virus hasn't even been isolated, it hasn't even been visualized. So now somebody wants to come to your door to see if you have this so-called COVID-19 with all these things right here still playing in effect. Okay, one, the kit that they could be giving you could actually be contaminated. Then the other thing is it's proven to be 80% unreliable. Okay, and we don't even know, if this virus hasn't even been isolated. So these things are very, very alarming as we dive a little bit deeper, because the ramifications could be, how about, okay, we come in here now and give you this faulty test and then deem you to have this virus, and then we remove your children out of your home based on all this falsehood. None of this stuff is factual. None of this stuff is proven. And it just gives me pause for concern when I see all this stuff connecting. I can go even deeper, but good friend of mine, he said, man, listen, your word you're putting out is good. Just cut it back a little bit. So with that, I'm going to be cognizant. I'm just going to cut it off now and just try to just post a little bit more frequently, and just kind of have the content just kind of be more of a concise manner. But again, want to come to our homes now and test this, but are these tests even reliable? 80% of the time not, and they could possibly either be contaminated, and the virus itself hasn't even been isolated. All right, you see right here, HR 6666. Just what is this all about? This is the TRACE Act, guys. So to authorize the Secretary of Health and Human Services to award grants to eligible entities to conduct diagnostic testing for COVID-19 and related activities such as contact tracing through mobile health units and as necessary at individual residences and for other purposes. So I'm going to officially call this the Snitch Act. So they're actually going to be paying folks to snitch on each other. You know what they say in the hood, snitches get stitches. In fact, in my hood, you can get even worse than that. So just be mindful right now. They're about to actually start paying snitches to tell on folks who may have the COVID-19. Now, we already know that can be used for all type of nefarious things as well. This bill, they're actually asking for like $100 billion, okay, which is just insane. So again, HR 6666. It's right there in the description. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. In my career in sales, I was taught to never forget your why. Now I'm also cognizant as I teach the next generation of salespeople, I tell them the same thing, to not forget your why. So as I continue to turn over rocks, to uncover different things, I'm mindful of what my why is. You're looking at one of my whys, my image, my likeness. That's my little man right there. That's my little genius. Yes, it is possible to have peace in these troubled waters that we are treading now. Proverbs 13:22 says, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. So this is why I do what I do, to not be, always compliant with what the mainstream does. Because as a dad, as a concerned, sovereign person that's been ordained to walk this earth, I have to be mindful that there's a sinister plot against us all. And so I'm mindful of that. As we come into this world, we are given so many different words of encouragement, of virtue, or whatever it may be. But it says that we shall perish for a lack of knowledge, a lack of vision, not being able to see what's really going on. So this fiat experiment, where our money system has been pegged to nothing now, just being printed out of thin air, it compromises so many things, and it puts at risk again all of our futures. But I've lived my time here, and I'm okay with that. My concern now are for my children, and what are we doing now for them? Are we being cognizant of the fact that the decisions that we're making today is going to have an adverse effect on each of them? So again, I'll continue to repeat this over and over. At what point is the remedy worse than the disease? So where my daughter can have peace and comfort in the midst of this storm, am I doing all I can do to shed light on the things that's going to affect her future? Because I owe this to her, because she didn't call to be here. This is a decision that her mom and I made. So it's my responsibility now to cover her and to do everything I can to shed light on just what's going on. So again, it says, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. Proverbs 25:2 simply states, it is the glory of God to conceal a matter. To search out a matter is the glory of kings. I seek to be a king as I am a king. I ask that you do the same. So as we continue just to try to dive a little bit deeper, to get the real facts of just what's going on, let's be mindful also of the future implications. Be blessed. My name is Elion Tate Bell. This has been Right Now Revelation.